I'll make a new single view application so we can create some scenes and segues from scratch. I'll just call this Storyboards and go into the storyboard file here. This is the single view, so we've just got that one single view controller, the one scene that will automatically load when the application begins. So, how to add new scenes? Well, scenes are view controllers. You add new scenes by finding the relevant objects in your object library and dragging them into your storyboard. I have table view controllers, tab bar controllers, page view controllers. I'm just going to work with the fairly standard view controller. Now, when I'm dragging them onto the storyboard and I don't have a lot of screen room, I do find it useful to zoom out. So I'll do that, drag on another and another. You don't have to drag them on left to right. It does make the most sense, but they can be positioned anywhere, and you can always reposition them later. It's usually easiest to grab the bar at the bottom to do that. Zoomed out is useful for rearranging the scenes themselves, but if you want to work with UI controls on each individual scene, it's usually best to be back at 100%. Now, I'd like to be able to easily distinguish between these different view controllers, so I'm going to change the background colors of the second and third ones. Often easier with this to have the document outline open. Want to select the view part of it, I'll go to my Attributes Inspector and change background here to a light gray color. And then go over to the final one, select its view, and change its background. And I'll just do a dark gray color. So I have these two new scenes. And these scenes are view controllers, although Xcode did not generate custom view controller class files for anything other than the first one, and we will often need those files, but we can add them later. And I want to do some segues. Well, a segue needs to be triggered by something, so let's take a classic button and add it to the first initial view controller here. Zoom back in to go to 100%, find the button, and I'll just put it in the middle here. That will allow me to segue from the first to the second. I'll add another button that will allow me to segue from the second to the third. So how to actually do the segue? Well, we don't need to make an IB action or worry about any of that. I simply control drag from the button to the place I'm going to. So control drag, click, over to the second, and let go. It's going to ask me, what kind of segue is this? Is it push, which means slide in from the right-hand side? Is it modal, which could be one of several, sliding up from the bottom or doing a page curl? I'm just going to select push, which is the classic right to left, the thing you'd see in, say, the Settings app or the Mail application. And I'll do exactly the same thing going from the second to the third. Control, drag, let go, push segue. I'm going to run this and we'll run into a problem. Then we'll fix it in a moment. The application opens up, I hit the segue button, and we're going to crash. I could pour through the issues here and start diagnosing the problem, but I know exactly what the problem is. It's saying push segues can only be used when the source controller is managed by an instance of UI navigation controller. A long-winded way of saying not all segues make sense in all circumstances. But push segues, the classic right-to-left move, is associated with a navigation controller in iOS, always has been. If you're starting to push in screens from the right-hand side, you expect to be able to tap the button at the top left to be able to go back. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually very, very easy. We select the first scene, the initial view controller, and with that selected, come up to the editor menu, say Embed in Navigation Controller. This is going to add the navigation controller as the initial view controller. And I can see that from the arrow that's being pointed to it here, and it will immediately load in our first view controller and handle having that navigation bar, which we can even see at the top here. So let's go ahead and run this. Navigation bar appears at the top. I hit segue. We click to the next one. The navigation bar has gone a little darker because our gray background is showing through, but we do have the automatic back button. So back down into it, click next again, even darker, and the back button is there. So no problem at all. We have written no code, but Xcode is handling the loading and the transitioning between these view controllers. So that's the basic idea. And next we'll take it a bit further and start making something a bit more interesting that passes data between our scenes.